So today's topic we're going to be delving into, and I would love the opportunity for you to allow me to come into your space via this meeting. I want to come beyond your screen. I want to come into your mind. I want to come into your heart, and I need your permission to do so. So I'd like you just to relax together with me, and this is something that you can do, a very practical issue, a very practical exercise, that you could do when you are working with teams. So when you get together in a meeting, the first time it'll feel a little different, or it'll feel a little bit uncomfortable because it's new, but the moment you start repeating things, people get into the hang of it, and what you want to do is you want to facilitate, as a leader and a manager, the very best version of people. So I want to invite you to do the 4, 6, 8 exercise with me, which is simply, hi folks, welcome to the meeting. Before we start, I'd like you just to relax your shoulders, so feel your shoulders dropping, and then I'd like you to pull your shoulders up and go back and up and go back, and then I'd like you to do 3 times. We're going to breathe in for a count of 4, we're going to hold it for a count of 6, and we're going to breathe out through our mouth for a count of 8, but we're going to move the diaphragm up rather than feeling we're moving our chest out. So work with the diaphragm. We're very, very bad at breathing, and oxygenation is one of the most amazing things that you can do for your conscious mind, for your neuroplasticity. It helps with connection, it eases stress, it helps to get into connectivity within your 11 body systems, it gets clarity of thinking, it takes away dullness. So a simple breathing exercise. So I invite you to do that with me, will you? So for a count of 4, let's breathe in, hold for 6, and breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in for 4. Be aware of the air going through the nostrils. Hold for 6. And breathe out for 8. Last one. Let's do it with zest. Breathe in. Hold for 6. And out for 8. Wonderful. While you're seated, I'd like you to move your head simply from side to side. So take your chin and get it to that shoulder. Don't bring your chin down. Keep it up. Bring it there and take it to the other side so that you can almost feel a little bit of a click at the back of your neck. We want to just loosen up a little bit. And so through breathing and loosening up, we have the opportunity to get focus of the team on a particular subject in our meeting. So in our meeting today, I'm going to coach you on how do you manage and lead your success and your failure circle using the art and the science of neuroplasticity. Now, we've all been taught and trained that the way that we do things is through personality. So we've been trained as managers and leaders. Our team are either in one of 4 boxes or one of 16 boxes, or if you had them complete the Enneagram, then there's 9, and it's all a guessing game. So it's a relative guessing game when you play the personality socio-ego. And it is exactly that messes up a whole lot of team connectedness, cohesion, understanding, communication, inspiring, and really having a well-formed team. So your brain is the hardware, so that's made up of white and grey tissue, and inside there we've got these green lines, which is called my mind and my consciousness, and it is here where we do 3 things: where we think, we feel, and we act. That creates consequences, and then we again respond and we again or react. But the body has 11 systems, and it's amazing that we will send people on psychological assessments and nobody measures the brain health or the mind health. They measure our personality and whether we're vibrant and personality vibrant, but vibrancy and energy comes from our neuroplasticity within our being. So our body is made up of 11 systems. There's an immune system as part of it. There's the autonomic nervous system. There's the parasympathetic nervous system. Autonomic is where I breathe. I don't have to consciously remind myself, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. I don't have to remind my heart to beat 72 times a minute. And when the boss walks in, beat 92 times a minute. That is handled by the autonomic nervous system. The parasympathetic system is where I can interrupt, like I did my 4, 6, and 8 breathing, so I can regulate my breathing. So I can do it through the executive mind in the front of my brain, and then there's also the endocrine system, which is the neurochemical. Now, neuroplasticity is what happens in this conscious mind, where we formulate a thought, where we formulate feeling with energy, and we formulate an action. And a lot of it is either done autonomically or it is done with conscious connection and conscious change. So at any given point in time, in our mind, in our neuroplasticity, in our consciousness, we are either in one of two spaces. You're never in a combined space. You're either in one or two. So the one space is called stress, and the other space is called thrive. So a neuro manager realizes that I'm not managing personality, but I'm managing the inside world of someone, or orchestrating the inside world of someone, because they're either oscillating between, or they're either in stress mode, which is driven by my autonomic nervous system. And the stress mode is when I get signals of loss or fear, or blame or shame, and then I get stress. That creates an energy in my body. I'll feel it somewhere in my body, the back of my neck, in my mouth, behind my temples, in my hands, etc. And then this automatically switches on because it wants me to survive. So this is the survival side of my neuroplasticity, and the moment that switches on, I either move into flight, flee, freeze, fight, or fellowship. Fellowship is where people, when they've been negatively impacted, get together and form camaraderie. And that's a way of the brain and the mind protecting itself, and it's driven by one of the neurotransmitters, which is called cortisol. Creates a huge amount of negativity within the system. The other side that we have to learn to oscillate and be aware of is the side of thriving. So your team at any given point in time, they've got the choice to move into thrive, and the beautiful part of it is that when you use and understand how I can orchestrate the parasympathetic system in my body through conscious awareness as a manager, I can get my team to shift from stress using my cognitive mind, my executive brain, and I can get them to move towards achievement, towards results, towards steps towards achievement, and that creates a beautiful neurotransmitter which is called dopamine, and it makes you feel good, and it takes you to higher levels of productivity and focus and integration. Success and focus, interestingly enough, have got the same formula, and the formula is quite simple. If you're successful, You are either focusing on something, so you're focusing on certain things, and then you're not focusing on certain things. So your focus is off certain things and your focus is on certain things. There's clarity within that focus, and then you also have a creation of energy and intention, and that will be whatever you focused on, your energy is going to flow towards that, and success is that formula. Now, failure is the same thing. You also focus. You focus on certain things and not on certain things. You're very clear on what you're focusing on when you're in failure, and you also have a certain energy and intention, and that is usually driven by the stress side of our neuroplasticity. So the art of working with success and failure, and as a manager you're working with that every single day. At the end of the day you go home and you decide, was it a successful day? Was it a day where I encountered more failures than success? And when I experience more failures than success, I then go into cortisol or amygdala in my neuroplasticity, and I become a little bit drained and I'm feeling stressful, etc., and I need relief. But when I am focusing on success, there's a difference. Success means I am aware versus I'm unaware or in default mode. So success has certain differentiators. And you need to be able to check yourself today, and you can rate yourself on a piece of paper to go, how much of my day am I fully aware of what's going on, and how much of my day do I discover, oh my goodness, I've fallen into default mode, or I've fallen into the unaware mode, or I've fallen into autopilot. Other thing you can measure is how cognitively aware am I. So my executive brain, that's what helps to orchestrate me from stress to move towards thrive. And my cognitive, so I'm thinking cognitively about it versus my first response on autopilot. So when I'm catching myself, oh my goodness, we've got this problem, we go, come on, let's solve the problem and get it over and done with. That means I've moved to the autopilot mode. I go, no, let's wait a moment, let's ask some questions. Let's go into reflection. And the moment you go into reflection, in your neuroplasticity, you're moving into your cognitive part of your executive mind, which is in the prefrontal cortex of your brain. So measure how cognitive am I. The other measurement is how self-aware am I, because without self-awareness, we automatically move into this space called numb, dull, and delusion. And numb, dull, and delusion is a reaction mode. It's a surprise mode. It's a management by surprise. It's leadership by surprise. And when we are not aware of ourselves or not aware of the context, we fall into a numb, dull, self-delusional state or mood of mind. And then I switch off to all the other voices that are calling me to pay attention that would create success, and I can't answer it because I'm numb and I'm dull and I am delusional. And the way that we get people out of numb, dull and delusion is to do exactly what we did in the first session, was to breathe in 4 times, hold for 6 and breathe out for 8, and do that 3 times, and then you become a little bit more cognitively aware. The other thing about success is that successful people, especially those who are neuroplastic orientated, you know, the tools and the techniques, and you've come on one of our empowerment processes called the Neuro Team Coach Manager or Leader, where we teach you to be far more intentional, where you, with intention, influence people, where you don't wake up and think, don't know what I'm going to do today. You wake up with a plan, where I am psychologically courageous and where I'm incisive in my mind. If I don't do that, it automatically, my neuroscience will take me to my surprise, management by surprise mode. So how are you doing on that kind of measurement? So let's have a look at a success circle. Now, a success circle has got particular well-defined criteria. And I'd like you will be getting a copy of the notes. Tony is sending you that at the day after tomorrow when you get a copy of this video and presentation with our compliments. So success has a cycle and a circle, and there's always momentum and movement in it. So movement is part of our neuroplasticity. It's one of our mind languages. We are moving towards something, or we are moving away from something. The moving away from is that kind of feeling I'm running and it's almost like a dog that's wanting to bite me in the butt, and that's called reactionary management or leadership. But resolute leadership, resolute management that's aware, is aware that I'm aware of where the things are moving, how fast they're moving, how slow they're moving, and which direction they're moving. So part of the awareness of being a successful manager and leader is I must be aware of movement. Where my team moving towards? You're aware of the dates and the timelines. You don't suddenly get surprised and go, oh my goodness, it's the 28th. Come on guys, we haven't reached our sales target. It's the 28th. Let's see if we can make a miracle in 2 days. No, you've been aware of that from day one. You've been aware of that from day 5, from day 8, from day 9, and you're constantly interrupting people's programs and their plan of action with intentionality, because you want the movement to be repetitive and you want the movement to create a flow. 80% of business is interpersonal relationships. People don't resign a job. They resign the way that they're being led and the way that they're being managed. So 80% of all business is people orientated. Take away people, you've taken away 80% of your business. The other 20% is stuff like my skills, my wisdom, my knowledge, my talent, my gifts, my ability, my collective wisdom and experience. But what's interesting, 90% of that 80%, 90% of that people factor is how people think, feel, with energy, and the actions that they create. And it's so interesting that most management schools and universities, they do not include this as a criteria of strategy. They say you don't need to manage people's thinking, their feeling, and their actions. The only thing that you need to manage is their actions and behavior. I'm working with a retail business of motor cars, and they've got a program. There's a slack in sales, and they have now incorporated a sales trainer to come in, and he's going, well, let me take you back to the basics. How many leads are you getting? How many people are you following up? How many people are you phoning? And he's going back to action. But they are not working on what are you thinking and what are you feeling when that action happens. And action is never a sustainable strategy. If you just focus on action, not going to work for you. So everything in this circle of success needs to be woven together. How would you measure yourself in terms of a well-defined result? Other people call it vision and mission and all those big words. I'm just going, you know what, let's stop playing with words and sound intelligent. Let's work with how well defined are my results and my outcomes. How do I know when I'm going to get there? The second criteria of success is, do I have ownership? And ownership is another word that I use that is far more brain friendly or neuroplastic friendly than self-responsibility. You've got to be responsible, and it conjures up fear and it conjures up unknowns, and so the way that we turn our vocabulary around is critical. Success circles have got a high degree of intentionality. Every single thing that a leader is doing that has been trained in neuroplastic coaching as a manager and leader, we train them to be far more intentional. People who are successful are high on commitment. Commitment, another word for that is dedication. And when you put commitment and dedication together, then you've got passion. There's energy, and you need to be able to manage energy of people that is moving towards. Remember, momentum, and it's always moving towards the well-defined result. Momentum is always moving with energy towards the well-defined results. Then, in a learning circle of success, I have to build in, how do I reflect? So how much time do you take reflecting? And it's where you pay your attention. So as a manager, if you're paying attention to, I'm reflecting on the negative, that's where the brain will give you energy, and it'll focus and come up with all the negatives that you need and more, and will invite more negativity to the party. In neuro team management, neuroplasticity management, we help people to reflect on the gaps and on positivity rather than negativity. Another success factor is, do you have the trust of your team, and do you trust in your own decisions? Do you trust yourself? Connection is more than communication. So connection means that we are connected to meaning, and so my words need to have meaning built into them rather than just having communication, blah, blah, blah. And then the other thing around success is that we measure and then we adapt. It's no good just measuring something. We've got to learn from it, then we've got to unlearn from it, and then we've got to adapt. So here's another neuroscience or neuroplasticity tool. It's just on 20 minutes in the presentation, and I'd like you to take a moment and just put your pens down, and I'd like you just to breathe the 4 in, hold it for 6, and out for 8. Do that 3 times. Will you do that? And I'm going to give you just on a minute and a half to do that. So we breathe in, and breathe out. Roll the shoulders back, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. Last one, breathe in, and breathe out. Pull up your diaphragm. Make sure that in your meetings, in your presentations, every 20 minutes, 25 minutes, that you take a conscious break. Why? The subconscious has been measured in neuroplasticity science that about 20-25 minutes, it's time for the consciousness to integrate. So our conscious and subconscious consciousness need to weave, and they need to file into short-term and long-term memory. And if we don't give our mind a minute and a half to 2 minutes of silence, of just breathing and not saying anything, it feels like an interruption, but you know what? It's actually a blessing. And if you don't honor that in your neuroplasticity, your conscious mind is going to say, oh, okay, so you don't respect my energy. So what I'll do now is, if you're carrying on and persist because you're so important and your message is more important than honoring the mind, I will now switch off concentration, retention, focus for the next 13 minutes. So you've got a choice. Stop and breathe in a 20-minute slot for 2 minutes, and have everybody's attention, or ignore it at your peril, and then for the next 13 minutes the people sitting in your audience, all they're hearing is blah 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 blah. And now after the 2 minutes I ask a question, and here's the question. I'm wondering what's the one thought that you're thinking, and what's the one feeling that you're feeling right now, based on what you've heard from me in the first 21 minutes. And just take a moment and think about it. We're talking about success and failure. What's the overall thought that comes to mind, and what's the overall feeling that comes to mind? And at this time, in the 2-minute slot, you can also ask your team to drink something. Success and failure. So what does failure look like? In managing cognitively with intention, we've got to be aware of both sides. So when I'm working with customer relationship management, we ask customers, what would we need to do for us to have a wonderful customer engagement relationship? What 4 things do we need to focus on? And then tell me, what 4 things do we need to do wrong for you to go, I'm going to exit if you do these 4 things? Because if we don't know those 4 things, we move into a guessing game. So awareness in our neuroplasticity is critical. So I've got to intentionally measure the failure cycle or circle as well. So I've got to be, as a manager and a leader, aware of, number 1, the momentum. And the one big thing in failure that success does not have, so success has a drawing pull factor to it, a magnetizing pull, where failure has a drag factor. It's like you're walking in a field, your hands are open with your fingers, and you're letting your fingers flow through the wheat or the flowers or the field that you're in, or the grass, or wherever it is that you're feeling. But you feel tugging at you in the back of your shirt. Here's 3 little pins in the back of your shirt, a piece of string tied to each with not a too heavy object, but you have the sensation of this drag factor. Now, that immediately, the moment you have that kinesthetic feel of drag, you know you're dealing with failure. It's about to happen. So I've got to double check in my strategy, how am I working with the victim thinking of my team? Because victim thinking is reactionary thinking. So the moment you hear people reacting, and the moment they are fighting with one another, and they are attacking the man and not the ball, then you need to know you're already working with failure in your space. The other thing about failure is that it has negative energy and negative emotions. Negative energy and negative emotions. The other wonderful sign and symptom that pops up in failure cycle is, how much blame games do we play, and how many excuses am I hearing right now? It's the economy, it's the devil, it's the CNA, then you know the person's dyslexic, it's this, it's that, it's 100 things. So am I playing blame games and excuses? Another thing in failure is the delusion of busyness. How busy am I? Am I constantly hearing that from my team? Oh, I'm so busy, and I'm so busy with that. And then they are, in terms of their strategy, there's lack of quality in strategy. It's not well thought out. It's like on the run, let's just do that, and let's just put more bait on the hook and throw it further and add more energy and do more this and more that. But we're not asking how come we have just made that instruction. Then we focus on action and behavior. That's all we focus on. Folks, we've got to focus on, we're not reaching enough clients, we're not asking enough questions, we're not selling enough, we're not doing this, we're not doing that, instead of standing back and asking, that could be a result, but what is the origin of the issue? So we don't spend time focusing on the real solutions and strategies, we just focus on what's the next counteractive action. Then there's discontent in the team, there's a rumbling and they're dissatisfied and they're not lekker, even although you bring pizza and Coke and they eat and burp and it's over and done with, but they still go back into disconnection and disillusionment. And our measurement is unreliable. We're measuring the wrong things. We're standing on a scale and we're trying to measure our height. So when you look at these failure circles, and you can take a screenshot of this, but you will be getting an ebook on it. How are you when you measure this? Because you also need to measure this to be aware and awake as a woke and neuroplastic leader, manager, team leader. Now let's look at a circle of mediocrity, and I've just chosen clients. So when I'm coaching in companies and we unpack this circle of mediocrity with our clients, you'll quickly find out. So are our customers busy telling horror stories about us, or are they busy being our ambassadors and our evangelists? Are we paying attention to rules rather than coming up with a pleasing solution for our customers? Are we on a lack of focus on benefits for our customers? Are we narrow in our job descriptions and design with our team? Or is there dissatisfaction and generalization with customers? On average, most customers will come back. On average, so many will do that, and it's like all average. There's no connection between the needs and the wants of customers. We're going, no, we know who they are, we know what, and they like it, and we generalize it because we surveyed out of 2,000 people, 2 people, so we must be right. The team is poor in terms of their connection, in terms of their game plan. They've lost the pizzazz, they've lost the energy, and we have an employee burnout because there's disregard of self-care and care for each other and care for the process of customers. So here is a circle of mediocrity that's just taking one particular strategic criteria, which is customers, which is a critical criteria to be able to manage. And if we're not managing our customers, we are not managing 80% of our business. But we're thinking systems will fill it, and we'll think that another questionnaire will do it, and we're thinking that another product's going to do it, and another this and another that, and we haven't taken the time to really connect with our customers, to really come alongside them and help them. So we've got, in this circle of mediocrity, we've got another 2 signs that come up, and that is we tend to have a lot of procrastination, we're not reaching our timelines, and we move into excuses and blame games. So what's the solution? So here's the leader who comes with a Superman badge called ACNM, Adaptive Conscious Neuroplastic Manager. So an adaptive conscious neuroplasticity manager is trained differently. So they're not just focusing on plan, lead, organize, and control, PLOC. They're focusing on POEM, proactive planning, orchestration, planning of energy, planning of movement, planning of momentum and measurement. And so within our consciousness as a neuroplasticity manager, we are consciously aware. We become focused on productivity and effectiveness, not efficiency. We're paying attention to levels of optimism. We're paying attention to levels of trust and connection, because it's these things, when we do these things here, folks, that's when the neuroplasticity creates serotonin and all the other happy hormones in our body and happy neurotransmitters or chemicals in our body that work with achievement and hope and move us towards productive meaning, fullness. Then the I factor, or the I characteristics. In other words, I'm intentional, I'm incisive, I'm impactful, and I'm intuitive. Just that, ladies and gentlemen, if you have to measure yourself just on those today, right now, how intentional am I in every move? How incisive am I? How impactful and how intuitive am I? Then I'm becoming more orientated towards the neuroplasticity of people rather than just their personality. Am I orchestrating rather than trying to control? And am I consciously aware as I focus with clarity, and where there is focus and clarity, their energy is going to flow. And when I have this happening as a neuroplasticity manager, I have dopamine and I have integration of my entire biology and of my entire being as a person. So here's a very practical solution that you can take home. You're going, okay, I've got all this information, what the hell do I do with it? Here's 2 practical things that you can now do. Remember, we're saying that our neuroplasticity, we're paying attention to how people think, feel with energy, and create action. So I, as a neuroplasticity manager, team manager, create intentionally atmosphere. So here's a little thing that you can do both in meetings and change your diary today and train your team on them. And you don't need to get training experts in to do this. You can do it right away. So whether it's a meeting or in your diary, you put this column in that says who and what. So between 7 and 8, who am I going to meet with? What's the project that I'm going to be doing? So it's who and what is column 1. 8 and 9, who and what? What needs to be done at that time? I manage productivity and meaning versus time. And I manage it consciously. The second column I put in, when I'm meeting Tom Brown, so when I'm meeting the people now on the synapses, what's the results that I want? The results that I want is that you must understand very clearly how you can manage success and failure from now on, and you can manage it differently, rather the way that you've been doing up to now. So that's a result that I designed for myself. What's the mindset that I bring into the meeting? So I brought energy, focus, intentionality, integrity, ethics. I brought information that is critical to shift you. So that's my mindset. The promises that I make, there'll be a promise that I will, for the first couple of people that email me, will get a free 40-minute session with me where we will unpack more of this and imagine what that can do for you and your team if you're empowered in a brilliant conversation together with me, where I'll take you into your reality and I can help you to use this neuroscience tool far more powerfully and productively. When you come to a meeting, you create an atmosphere with breathing. When you start your day, you create breathing, and in between every appointment, you do breathing to bring yourself into the moment of that time slot. So we become far more aware in our time slots. We become aware of not only space and time, who we are having business with, what are the results that we intend to achieve, what's the mindset that's going to drive that, or attitude or mood, and what are the promises that I'm going to make that I need to deliver on. Here's another little tool. Ask your team this question: how are we going to work together so that both of us or all of us can bring our 9 out of 10 version to bear. And you sit down and you talk to each other about that. For me, to bring my 9 to 10 version is I show up well prepared, I design flip charts, I present with enthusiasm, I focus your attention on the things that are critical and that matter. So I'm bringing my 9+ version to you via the synapses today. You bringing your 9 out of 10 version by analyzing, by taking notes, by rating yourself out of 10 of all the items that I've given. And when you get the ebook, you can re-rate yourself and re-watch this video and replay it so that you can really pay attention to it. So that's the first question we then ask as a team. So here we get them together to come mindfully and consciously into every day, into every meeting. Every item on the meeting has got a result. Every item on the meeting has got a mindset. Every item on the meeting is who does what by when and the promises that are going to be made by people. The second question is critical, and that is, when things go wrong, how are we going to work together? So what will happen if suddenly there's load shedding? Well, I've taken that into consideration, and I've got a backup system for that. So I've dealt with that. So if load shedding comes and we're surprised by the government, then that can be dealt with. If we're surprised with internet, I've got a backup system for that. So we can click onto another version of the internet. But oxygenation, to oxygenate, is critical to bring people into self-awareness, self-meaning, and as I bring that into my biology, I become aware far more than just a to-do list. Just that, folks, is a to-do list. The results turns a to-do list into a become list. And the mindset makes it part that I'm doing it with meaning and energy, and the promises that I'm going to make is what takes me to the next level. So let me close off with this. To work with your success circle and your failure circle, you must work with both, not just one. You need to work intentionally, and that's the hope message that I bring to you today, is intentional leadership, using and understanding your neuroplasticity rather than personality. Make that shift and give yourself the greatest gift that you possibly can today. There is help, that's me. I'm here to help you, to develop you and encourage you. The first step you need to take is to email me for your free 40-minute session where we will delve into this document and presentation in your context so that you could better understand it and be given three powerful tools in those 40 minutes that you can use effectively and impactfully for you to produce greater productivity, profitability, and the possession and the process towards your results. You need to create new habits and rituals, and there's no two ways about it. If you want to change your diet, you've got to create new habits and rituals. You want to change your body health, you've got to create new habits and rituals. And so let's talk about that. And then there's hard work that you've got to be focused in terms of action steps that are designed around being fully aware. And the moment I design small intentional action steps and move away from multitasking, and by the way, your neuroplasticity cannot do multitasking. You can't read a book and have a conversation at the same time. You can't read a book and watch a television program. You can't use your cell phone in the car and talk while you're driving in traffic at the same time, even on a speaker. So you lose about 40% of your concentration the moment you move your brain into something which it does not want to do and cannot do, which is called multitasking. So stop multitasking, rather create small action steps that produce movement towards focused success, and that's the hard work. And I hope that you will be one of the people that will be brave enough and have courage to send me that email. Let's set up that meeting so I can help you take your heart and your hands and your mind and help you in your context to become far more aware of being a neuroplastic team manager and leader. And I trust that this Synapses has empowered you in terms of managing your success and your failure with great intentionality so that you can orchestrate rather than plan and become reactionary. Thank you for your time, and I thank you for the privilege of sharing this Synapses with you.